The New York Rangers are in a pretty interesting spot right now as they're currently on the outside looking in of a wild card spot. But right now, the New York Rangers also have two prospects in Brennan Othmann and Berard who are doing an absolutely phenomenal job right now with the Hartford Wolfpack in the AHL. Both these players are on absolute fire, and I definitely think the New York Rangers need to do whatever they can to try and open up some roster spots for these two players who are definitely, I would say, deserving of getting a chance once again at the NHL level. We saw Othmann get his chance last season, although a pretty small sample size, and then Berard got a decent little, chunk of sample size, you could say, earlier this season. So in today's video, like I said, we're going to take a look at these two prospects and kind of see, how they're doing, how good they've truly been, and really kind of talk about what this team could do and the moves they can make to try and open up a couple of roster spots here for these two players to get them on the NHL team, because I definitely think it is important to get these two young players who are, pretty much NHL ready, as they're currently pretty much kind of tearing up the AHL. They're seemingly NHL ready and definitely need that NHL kind of exposure, so we're going to talk about how they could possibly get up to the NHL. We'll also take a look at which trades could be made by the New York Rangers to kind of help this situation along here to get Othmann and Berard up to the NHL, as well as we'll take a look at what has gone on so far in the Four Nations Face-Off tournament, as the round robin is now complete and we know which two teams will be going on to the finals. So we'll take a look at those two teams there, kind of talk about what has gone on so far with, those four teams, obviously Finland, Canada, Sweden, and the US, as well as what has gone on with those 5 New York Rangers players who did end up representing their countries at this tournament as well. So we've got a lot to cover in today's video. Let's get right into it here and start off by taking a look at the two prospects, and that is Brennan Othmann and Berard. And like I said, both these players have been on absolute fire so far this season. So let's get right into it here and take a look at their numbers so far, as Brennan Othmann currently does have 25 games played in the AHL, 19 points, 12 goals, 7 assists for a +2. Now, he did miss quite a bit of time. He ended up having a great start. I believe he had 3 games played to begin the season, 5 points, then ended up getting hurt, missed all the time up until it was the end of December, I believe, when he started to kind of come back around, started to practice. Then has obviously got back in game shape, has been playing for, I believe, over a month now, and has really and truly just been tearing things up. He has been an absolute fire. So 19 points, 12 goals in 25 games played is not bad at all. He's projected to have this season in the AHL, his kind of prorated numbers, 48 games played, 23 goals, 13 assists, 36 points, not bad at all. But when you take a look at what he's done over the last kind of few games, this is where things really start to show how truly good he has been since coming back from his injury, which definitely slowed down his development a little bit, but it is obviously very nice to see him kind of come back from that injury and just kind of continue to be on absolute fire, which he was at the very beginning of this season until he did get that injury. But this is great to see. He's been tearing things up, and in his last 5 games played with the Wolfpack in the AHL, he does have 5 points, 4 goals, 1 assist, and in his last 10 games played, he's got 8 goals, 1 assist, 9 points in those 10 games played. So he's lighting things up right now, putting up some phenomenal numbers, really showing his phenomenal goal-scoring ability, which I definitely think he does have, and hopefully that can translate to the NHL level, where if he can kind of translate his game and kind of what he has and his abilities and play style and all that to the NHL level, the Rangers are going to see a very good, kind of solid all-around player. He can play a physical game. He can play that role of get under your skin a little bit. They're not going to be quite that Kachuk role out there, or, Will Cooley, where he's kind of having like a crazy amount of hits and is consistently in that kind of, top 10 range of hits in the entire NHL. But he's going to be a physical force out there. It's not going to be someone who just gets pushed around. It's going to be one of those guys who, come playoff time, you want to have in your team and can be a pain in the butt to play against at moments, can provide that offense, the goal scoring ability. He definitely has, a great shot, really good hockey IQ, I think, and, can also be a really great playmaker as well. Has some good creativity to his game, I think. I've watched him a ton. Many of you may know I am a Canadian Rangers fan. I'm a Peter Pete's fan as well. That's my OHL team. So I got to watch Brennan Othmann a ton when he was playing in the OHL, but especially once he got traded over to my Peter Pete's, where I saw Othmann really start to take a pretty big step in his all-around game, which was very nice to see. He really started to work on his defensive game as well, joining a contending team at that moment, which the Peter Pete's were. They went on to win the OHL championship as well that season. Othmann was the top player on that team. Him and the goalie were the pretty much 2 MVPs of that squad. So I think overall, with what Brennan and Othmann can possibly bring with his all-around game, not just the offensive talent, but the solid defensive play, the physicality, the pain in the butt to play against, I think his all-around game works out really well and does bring in a lot of needs of kind of what this Rangers team kind of has to have right now. We need more physicality, we need more toughness, we need more grit, need more energy, and that is exactly what Brennan Othmann can bring, while also having that solid kind of all-around game, good offensively, good defensively as well. He's never going to be like a shutdown defensive winger, but can still definitely hold his own, which is exactly what you want to see out of a good offensive talent like a Brennan Othmann. But carrying on, though, and taking a look now at what Berard has done so far this season, where he does have a total of 27 games played with the Wolfpack, 23 points. He's got 9 goals, 14 assists. Also with the Rangers, though, does have 19 games played, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points in the NHL this season. And I think in that sample size there, although not a huge one, 19 games is still a good chunk of games there. It's about a quarter of the season, you could say, almost. So I think with what we saw there out of Berard, I think he did a pretty solid job there. Was he lights out every single game? No, but I think he had a few really good games there, a couple iffy ones, but not too bad for someone who just started to make that jump to the NHL. I think he showed a lot and definitely has the potential to end up playing a really big and kind of key role on this Rangers team in the future. And if you take a look at kind of what he's done alongside Brennan Othmann so far in his last kind of 5 and 10 games played, he's also been on absolute fire. He's got, in his last 5 games played, 6 points there, 5 assists, 1 goal. And in his last 10 games played, he's got 2 goals, 8 assists, 10 points. Him and Brennan Othmann have been on fire together. And with where this team is at right now, organizationally, and kind of where things stand in the standings right now, I think the main thing for this Rangers team is to kind of look more towards the future. I don't think they have to use this season as kind of a tanking season, but I think using it as a kind of stepping stone of a season, you could say, to kind of, stepping towards the future, I think is a probably smart idea. I don't think we're going to win the cup this season, but I also don't think we're going to get like a more than likely top 5 pick. So let's try and make the playoffs here. Why not? Sure, let's see it happen. That would be fun. Obviously, I'd rather see this team make the playoffs than not, especially if you're not going to be able to get more than likely a truly kind of top tier pick. So in my opinion, go after the playoffs, but don't buy big. And also maybe go out there and trade away a guy like a Riley Smith or a Jimmy Vesey, who I think are players who are probably not going to be around here long term. So trading them away, getting back an asset or two, whether it is, a pick or a prospect, whatever it could possibly be. And Riley Smith could get you back something decent, I'd imagine. Jimmy Vesey, not a ton, but you can still get back something, I'd imagine. And maybe you just want to hold on to a guy like Jimmy, that's fine as well. But mainly trading away a guy like Riley Smith, to me, makes a lot of sense, because that opens up a direct spot in the top 9 for a guy like, Berard or Brennan Othmann. Maybe you can open up 2 spots, get both of them up, but at least getting one of these players up. I know they've been good together, and it's nice to have these young guys kind of playing together and getting all that experience together in the AHL, playing alongside each other, getting that chemistry. But giving some of these young guys more of a chance at the NHL level is what I think is very important as well, especially playing meaningful games that are going to matter, because this team is still fighting for the playoffs. And even if they are, let's say 8 points out of a playoff spot on that trade deadline day, which I definitely hope is not true, but if they are, let's say, they're still going to have the hopes of making the playoffs, more than likely, right? So this team is still going to be battling, still going to be playing meaningful games. So I think having some young guys up here would be very important for that, and instead of just having guys like a Riley Smith, who, very well could likely end up walking away in free agency for nothing, going out there and trading him away, getting back something, and giving that spot, his spot, to someone like an Othmann or Berard, to me would make a lot of sense there. Give them that experience in that top 9, let them get some playing time at the NHL level, playing some meaningful games alongside some of their future potential teammates. Give them some chemistry there, but also just get some games in at the NHL level. Let them develop where it matters most, because I think this team needs to have some of these young guys really starting to come through here, which will help this cap situation out so much more. If you can have a lot of guys on NHL level contracts, whether it is forwards or defensemen as well, and that goes for a guy like Ryan Lindgren as well. If you can trade him away and call up a different kind of young guy to give him more of a chance at the NHL level, that might not be a terrible idea. Is there a bunch of great young defensemen in Hartford right now? Not necessarily, but maybe there's a guy down there they have their eye on of kind of giving him more of a chance potentially. I don't exactly know. I'm just saying that trading away some guys, opening up some spots for younger players would not be a bad idea at all. And now for the Four Nations Face-Off Tournament update. We ended up seeing in round robin play, as that has now been completed. 2 New York Rangers players go out in the round robin, being Urho Vakanainen, and one of them with Team Finland. And then we also saw Team Sweden's Mika Zibanejad go out in round robin as well. So 2 Rangers players are now done. Their tournament is completed, which, it sucks for them, but it is what it is. I mean, those were the two kind of obviously not necessarily favored teams. And for the finals, we now have Canada versus the US, which I think will be a great game. We obviously saw a very fun, entertaining game, I would say, in that round robin game. And now we're going to see it in the finals here for the whole thing, which it should be a ton of fun to watch. I mean, there's obviously a couple players from each team that aren't going to be playing. There are going to be some losses, but in general, it seems like we're pretty much going to be seeing some best on best hockey here from both Canada and the US as best on best as we can get right now, which obviously I think it's just going to be a great game. And from what we saw from those, first couple games there from a couple guys like, a JT Miller, Trocheck, Kreider, none of them played a phenomenal role, honestly. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I watched all these games. None of them played phenomenal. None of them played a huge impact. But, we saw that nice little fight there from JT Miller against Colton Parayko, who definitely has quite a bit of size on JT, but in that Canada game, we saw that fight there. He was one of those, first couple fights. So that was a bit of fun to watch. But overall, not a super, entertaining tournament from guys like Kreider, Trocheck, and Miller. I don't think any of them played phenomenal. Obviously saw that, quick little goal there from Kreider in the final game against Sweden. But overall, none of them had a phenomenal tournament, but all three of them are obviously on a, finals team there. So it should be a ton of fun to watch here. I'm going to be excited to see what these guys can do, or, possibly not Kreider, but, Trocheck and Miller, obviously, at least for sure, they're going to be a part of that team, I'm sure, a part of the lineup. So it'll be fun to watch. I'm excited to see what does happen there between Canada and the US. I am Canadian, so obviously I'm cheering for Canada, but I'm still cheering for, Trocheck, Miller, Kreider if he gets in there. I'll still be cheering for those guys to do something, but at the end of the day, I still want to see Canada win because that is my country, and hopefully Jordan Binnington can do something better than what he's done so far, because he is just not the best goalie that we could have brought, but that is definitely not for today's video. Anyways, though, thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, definitely hit that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content. Let me know your thoughts as well in the comment section down below, on this tournament. What are your thoughts so far of it? Do you enjoy it? Do you hate it? Do you like it? If you watched it all, let me know your thoughts. Who do you think is going to win the kind of gold medal or kind of finals here? And also, let me know your thoughts on these two prospects, Brennan Othmann and Berard, that we talked about in today's video. Do you think we should trade away a guy like Riley Smith to open up a spot for them? Let me know your thoughts. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.